keeping in mind the theme of today, which is collaboration, let's have some questions.
Yeah, I'm interested in how you got to be CCIOs or similar, and where the next generation of CCIOs come from. And I don't know if anyone watched Newsnight last night, but there was an appalling interview about the need for everyone to learn coding, which completely missed the point from where I was sitting. And I wonder if you could just say a few words about your own backgrounds in technology and management, as well as the clinical way that you got into this post, and what you'd be looking for and what you're doing for the next generation. And will it all have to be much more formal than it was for you?
Simple question.
Yeah, so I'm a nephrologist. I was appointed 11 years ago as a consultant. Nephrology is a data-driven specialty, so we grow up understanding, or at least I did anyway, that the data is valuable, that you measure it, report it. Sending things to a national registry before national registries otherwise existed gave a great sense of why that data is important. I came into this through clinical transformation, actually through service redesign and working with patients to design services around their needs, both in primary and secondary care, and from across the board. So trying to avoid patients developing kidney disease, as well to providing better services for them. And as part of that, we wanted to improve our systematic approach to collecting information. We tried to deploy if you want to call it a third-party, second-party system with colleagues at King's, but were blocked by our previous iteration of the trust IT infrastructure. And so we took what we could do within the ICM product, probably before anyone else in the trust had thought of doing anything with it, and built out some data capture tools, which meant that we could consistently across our practice collect information, and there was some difficulty, but increasingly less so, drag information out and use that information to inform care, to provide core reports that articulated how well we were doing as individual doctors, how well the consistency across the practice was, and then push some of that data out into some of our national reports and support research. As the trust moved forward, and in response to the funding gap 4 years ago, we created a transformation program, and I moved from just working within the renal unit to working across the trust from a transformation perspective. But it took maybe 3 years, probably 3 years, to coax our new medical director to adopt the CCIO role and move that role from sitting under one executive director responsible for workforce and service transformation into the medical director's office, which I think was the key thing, because putting into the medical director's office automatically gave me A, more support, B, more collaboration with key colleagues, and C, somewhat more power to do things. And I can't code, and I'm fighting off my developed colleagues from ever teaching me how to code, because I think that would distract me from the service delivery, service design, and patient focus of what we're trying to do. Maybe to the experts. Thanks, Tom.
Chris?
So from my perspective, so as I said, I'm a nurse. So in nursing, I very quickly saw that there was, when I say quickly, this is sort of like 15 years ago, I could see that the emergence of IT is actually really key in the clinical function. But I was also sober enough to realise that, but there's a big divide. So IT is seen as the problem within, not as the solution in clinical health. So I made a leap of faith in regards to, I decided, so I was working as an executive director of nursing in a specialist hospital, but I knew that in order to actually ever have a go at making a difference and making IT a solution in clinical practice, I had to jump. So I did an MSc in IT, and I decided to change my career into IT focus. So what happened was I then left my previous organisation, and I went to Basingstoke, and I was appointed as a program manager, basically rolling out systems. And it quite quickly became apparent that having both insights in regards to in-depth knowledge from clinical all the way up to executive clinical function experience, and having my understanding of how IT solutions get designed, developed, the life cycle, how you decommission them, etc., etc. That amalgamated actually would set me up very, very well in regards to being this gatekeeper and being this synthesis between IT and the clinical. So when the role of the CCIO started to come, I have to say I was sort of like a bit on the fringe and didn't really take too much notice, but then I went to see, is it Professor Ian Carpenter in the Royal College of Physicians? And I talked to him about sort of like the standards of electronic discharge summaries and stuff like that. And he said, Chris, what you do is what a CCIO does. And I took that back to my organisation and I pushed like hell and I said, well, I'm doing it, so why should I be a project or program manager being absolutely locked into IT, whereas actually I should be empowered to be part of the clinical function, delivering the IT and sort of like moving in between the two, you know, fluidly. And they bought it.
I'll
So that's where I am.
have to get that self-coaching. So Hashim, how would you answer?
I'm a psychiatrist trained in Southampton, which was one of the 4, I believe, the mainframe computer data centers when mainframe computers were the rage in way back in 1980s. The professor had the main interest, but that is just on the margin. I didn't work in the professorial team, was not really involved in the whole thing. But after doing my membership, I went back to Pakistan, and there in a university hospital which used a mainframe computer, that's where I think the bug bit me. We were a very small department, only 4 psychiatrists, 2 of us collaborated on a number of research projects which led to many publications, and I managed all the data in that. Doing actual databases in DBase 3, then in Fox Pro, taught myself all that, SPSS. And in that, when I was collaborating with the technical boys in the computer department, that's where I learned that I need not be a wannabe techie. I must stay, as a clinician, did not know the term user case, but develop the insight into how to develop user case, explain them to technical team to get what I need from them. And that's where I learned the collaboration. When I moved back to NHS in 1997, everything was coming around just at the right point. And when the EPR bandwagon started rolling, initially in my trust, I think there were probably 4 consultants who attended the initial focus groups and all that. By the time we chose interim solution, I was the only one left. A very, very supportive clinical director seconded me to the project. The department was £22,000 actually in benefit, and it was a standing joke between me and the clinical director. She didn't want me to come back to my day job for the 2 days that IT department was paying. But that was something unique, jokes aside. I've been very closely involved in with 10 mental health trusts in London. Ours, Oxley's, was the only trust which actually purchased the time of a senior clinician to help the IT team. And I did that role for about 2 years. Then I took over clinical director responsibility in Bromley. Once I think I had done enough for 4 years, was getting a bit bored, I made a suggestion to medical director and to the chief exec. What they needed was a clinical informatics lead, and I happened to know somebody suitably qualified. The best surprise was a new finance director who was absolutely signed up, that the way things were moving, this was going to be money well spent. We were going to create a proper directorate. And something I did not expand on is that Oxley's actually has informatics directorate at par with other clinical directorates. Every clinical directorate has a full-time service director. So we have a chief informatics officer full-time, and every directorate has a clinical director, which is 2 days, clear time in the diary to support the directorate. And that's the brief I'm doing. So matrix management, report to the informatics lead, as well as to the medical director.
Very briefly, Colin.
I'm a restless, cup half empty kind of guy. I just can't stand still. I just want to make it better. I'm a rooted clinician. I love getting it right for patients. I hate seeing things that are wrong. I'm not techie. I would hate the prospect of a world of ones and noughts and coding. That's all for me. But you know, we need better information at point of care, make better decisions, get better outcomes, and you know, informatics platforms for doctors and nurses and the rest is what we need, where we need to be. I've been a bit fortunate in that I've always been able to, more than some of my colleagues, see over the hill and see what looks good even when you can't see it in front of your eyes, you know, in terms of where to look from. So I love the job I'm doing. I've no idea who the organisational turn to after me to do it at the minute, but there you go.
Bill.
I've got a question about Colin's talk. Can you say a little bit more about how you handle paper notes? Have you still got them around? And if so, how do you handle the data duplication issue, notes, electronic systems, and what are your plans to get them?
Yeah, okay. So we're in that transition phase. Still at this point in time, the paper notes is the master record. It's certainly the master record for inpatients, and it's the master record in outpatients until each particular specialty has signed off and turned to a paper-like state. And then for that specialty and bunches of specialties on an ongoing basis, and the master record for those specialties is the electronic record. However, it is paper-light, it's not paperless, and where the clinician feels the need for paper records, they can pre-require those notes to be passed on. But it is managing that split in the record.
If I come in on that, you know, we took a completely radical approach in Oxley's. We were the only trust to actually say that at each step of 4 steps rollout, once the electronic records are turned live, they are the primary legal record. And we produced one side of A4, which had 2 tables. Table A said everything which EPR can support, and any clinicians saving that on paper, you know, are taking the risk personally. And Table B said things like, you know, lab results, medication charts, whatever, third-party reports, external referrals, which cannot be supported. We call them a secondary record now. And they regularly have 6-monthly surprise audits, and teams are actually managed. And I personally have chaired serious incident inquiries. They absolutely rigidly adhere to that brief, that if things are not recorded in EPR, it is not admissible if the paper was filed somewhere, and the clinical team taking a tough decision were not advised by the note being copied in me. And we are now moving to a place where we're actually shredding paper. Even incoming letters and things, they get scanned in, usually within a matter of days, and then the original is actually shredded.
Can I ask Colin, thank you, whether it looks as though it's improved in Cumbria since I last saw it. How do you think things will change? You've had a lot of sort of input, haven't you, from the company to develop Lorenzo in your location. How do you think that will change as it spreads out across the country? Do you think you will lose impact with the company because you've got a really tight, imagine, relationship and how it changes?
As our organisation, I think that's right, and I think that's healthy, actually. There are a lot of trusts now on board who are either going live now or in the next few months or down the next 2 to 3 years. We're on a different kind of platform and setting with the company now, in that we've got a vibrant user group that all the trusts go to. The user group used to be populated by technicians, technical staff. I've been chairing that for the last year, and it's a different population of people now. We've got clinicians in there. We've got a clinically led, clinically engaged agenda. And you know, the system is rapidly evolving compared with where it was 3 years ago. And there's a roadmap, and you know, we as users are able to influence that roadmap.
So you don't sense any frustration among your users that they're not getting what they want because things are being done for the users elsewhere? Do your users sense a change?
The really interesting thing is, and we had a sweep round 10 user trusts at National User Group meeting a few months ago. It was really interesting. We asked each trust to describe where they were on their journey path, what their needs were, And actually, when you map out the needs of one trust, you know, trust 1 to 10, broadly speaking, our needs are actually pretty similar. And that really was striking. I mean, okay, there are some trusts who are currently acute and community trusts, whereas many are not. So they've got some particular needs. But actually, you map out the needs of different organisations, and it really is striking how broadly similar the majority of needs are. And actually, that's borne out by healthcare around the world. I mean, healthcare is converging in the model world. CSC have taken the view to merge a worldwide product and a UK product, because actually the needs of people in different healthcare settings is pretty similar.
I'll say maybe just one more question.
I'd just like to ask Chris, as a clinician nurse myself, you're sitting in IT, who decides on like your priorities? And did you have to do some work with clinicians just to bring them up to a certain level, especially nurses?
Yes, we use the agile techniques, but very much what the last speaker was describing. So what happens is that there's a group of nurses and doctors of various levels who they have to represent the whole function. So they can't make these decisions on their own. They have to actually talk to their own groups and their own areas in regards to what are the priorities and what do we need right now. And again, that's what Colin was saying in regards to, when you actually break it down, everyone is after this similar things. Where you might get differences might be sort of, okay, maternity feels that it's their sort of like turn to have priority as opposed to, the ED surgery. But it's small fry in regards to everyone gets in regards to, well, this is what needs to happen from a wider community perspective. What you were saying about, okay, what do we need to do in regards to getting people up to speed? It's actually quite difficult to explain to or get people embedded in this agile technology. And even for myself, it took me at least 6 months to really get my head around it in regards to, well, how does it work? Because you could argue and say, well, really what agile means is that, well, you just keep developing, you keep crunching it out, and if it doesn't work, oh, well, it doesn't matter because no one's checking anything, and you just keep going. Whereas it's actually quite structured, but you need to understand how it works, and you need to understand how the participants, so how the community actually interact with that. So I have a web-based system which does all that, makes it very, very transparent. These are the stories that are happening, these are the development backlogs that we know we've already prioritized, but we haven't been able to start. These are the ones that we're doing right now, and these have been tested and are now live. And that's, it is available to people, and it is getting that change in attitude, I suppose, in regards to, you don't have to have this massive big project and wait until the end. It is quite okay to engage, and even if it doesn't go right the first time, keep going in the fact that it will get there. And I think in my organisation that probably took a year to 18 months. So I can really see in this group that I mentioned, that I chair, in the fact that the last 6 months, what happens is that, okay, the attendance might not be full, I might not get 30 people in the room, but the quality of the people making the decisions who do attend are actually representative of the whole clinical function. So they can actually even say, well, I know that maternity is really keen on this, and you know what, I think they're absolutely right in regards to, I can wait a bit longer in regards to getting my needs or the divisional needs met. But you're right, there's quite a bit of education to be done. And I think, again, I very much in my role, I do it through this visibility. Keep talking to people very much on a one-to-one, so people don't feel they're being set up in an arena.
Okay. So it's nearly 11:15. The next session starts about 5:30. So if we'll thank our speakers and continue conversations over coffee, we'll be back by 11:30. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll let things out. The tube strike. I just